trickling in. Again, this is Coach Becky from Doc Wayne, and I'm here with Molly Schaus, who's USA Olympic ice hockey goaltender and a BC alum. How are you doing? I know, there's just so much going on with this pandemic, and we're all doing our very best to stay healthy and stay happy during this time. But tell us what you're up to these days.
Yeah, definitely. So, like you mentioned, I'm from Boston. I went to Boston College, but I'm actually living in Southern California now. So, I will say there are some perks to, sheltering in place when it's 75 degrees outside, and you can get some fresh air and not worrying about snow in May. So, I've been out here. I live in Southern California, and just trying to keep busy. I'm like most of you, working from home now, which has been a huge adjustment. I work in the NHL for the Anaheim Ducks, and usually I'm working nights and weekends and games and major events at local schools. So it's definitely, to go from 100 miles per hour to 0 in the last couple of weeks, it's been an adjustment, but trying to fill that time and stay creative with work, stay connected to friends and family all over the country. And most importantly, fill up my day with things that make me feel good and productive, and do the best I can to keep that schedule.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite an adjustment, especially for people who are active and out and about all the time. I know for myself, I have 2 young kids, so we're always going from one activity to the next, and all of a sudden the brakes were put on. So tell us a little bit about some of the self-care things you've been doing, or even some things that you've been doing to keep yourself physically active.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an adjustment. Being an athlete myself and goaltender, I've had some injuries. So I was just actually going through some hip issues and was just cleared to ice skate again and swim. And I was really excited about that. And both those things have been shut down. So I've tried to be a little bit creative. And from day one, I've been walking a lot, actually, just with long-term injuries and prevention and nice weather. I try to start every morning going outside and going for a 20-minute walk. And usually right around that 5 o'clock time frame, when maybe I'm getting a little stir crazy inside, I'll go out and do an hour and a half walk and listen to podcasts. And it's beautiful out here. And then you can come home, make dinner, and it feels a little bit more acceptable to throw on a movie or read a book at that time. So walking's been my big thing. I've jumped on the bike a little bit, rollerblading every once in a while, just to kind of get that feel of ice skating. But yeah, just trying to be creative, staying physically active, trying to make a game out of anything. I'm too competitive. So just trying to get creative, and a couple times a day getting outside, getting that sunlight, and trying to get the heart rate up where I can.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for some of us who are into performance and athletes, we forget about walking.
Yeah.
And we
it's actually really nice.
It is really nice, and you can do other things while you're doing it. It's not you're running. You can actually do some bits of meditation or music, but it's not always on the top of mind for folks who are really thinking about their performance all the time. But it's a great activity for sure.
And it's low pressure. I don't know about you. I definitely, the first week or two of quarantine, went through a phase of sleeping in really late and taking advantage of not having to be places, and kind of got lazy. And so for me, it was an easy way to say, all right, just go for a walk, go outside. It's not hard to do, right? It's not saying I'm going to go run 5 miles or do a 45-minute workout. It's just go get active, go get the legs moving. And usually when I come back from a walk, I have more energy, and then, all right, I'll do a bodyweight circuit or, throw something else in. But just to get that motivation for me to get off the couch, out of bed, and get moving, which is so important for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And for our kids that are watching, whether they be in middle school or high school or on the brink of being a college athlete, what tips might you have for them, as they may have lost their season or they really don't know what's coming up next? Just there's so much uncertainty, and they want to keep training, and they want to keep their fitness up. And you mentioned walking, which is great, but do you have any other things in mind that they might be able to do for their physical fitness or for their mental well-being?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like everyone, the uncertainty is so hard right now. I feel for all the Olympic athletes who are heading to Tokyo in a couple months, and what a change that has been, or every athlete who's playing any level of sport right now. Being home is tough. So
Yeah.
finding that structure, I think, setting a schedule throughout the day has been really important. I think we're also used to getting up, going to school or work, going to practice, getting your training and doing your homework and trying to emulate that as much as possible. And being creative. I remember right when I left the Olympic team, I was talking to the strength and conditioning coach, and she told me something I'll never forget. She said, make the world your gym. So whatever that is, take the stairs, park further away, get creative in your house. So I personally don't have weights at home, but I can put a bunch of books in a box and start doing lunges or squats with them. You can really get creative, and there's, with permission, of course, from parents, there's really incredible workout videos online right now. A lot of strength coaches are doing free webinars and trying to stay
Mm-hmm.
active. And for me, speaking as a hockey goaltender, yeah, staying at home would be really hard to dial in those specific sports skills. I'm not on ice. I'm not having people shoot pucks at me, but you can always develop your athleticism. I think especially as you get older, there's so many different aspects, and what really differentiates everybody is your athleticism and your mental strength towards games, that consistency. So I think, we're working with kids out here, hockey, you just need a stick and a ball in the garage, or start juggling, work on hand-eye coordination, get a deck of cards and start doing, throwing cards and trying to catch them. I've seen people spin a bottle on the ground and whoever points at, they all sprint away. Like, there's a lot of ways to just come up, find something around the house and make a game of it, and just stay competitive and stay active. As far as physically training, if you have a set of stairs, you can do jumps and lunges. If you, have a chair, you can do squats. You can really get creative. But just know that everybody's in the same boat as you are. So every athlete around the world, no matter what level, is kind of having the same issues you are, and just trying to be creative. And I think the most important thing you can do is, when all this is over and the return to play starts to happen, that you're mentally and physically refreshed. You take a break a little bit. Don't be so hard on yourself. Doing something's always better than doing nothing. So staying active. And I think the biggest thing, especially in times like this, I remind myself, there's so much we can't control. Like you said, there's so much uncertainty, but we can control our attitude and our effort. And that's something through sports and school that has gotten me a long way. So I think there's obviously moments to kind of grieve what we've lost in the seasons and the teammates, but also, what can we do moving forward to make the best of the situation, and trying to reframe that mindset as much as you can is important.
Yeah, definitely. I think you make some really good points. And I know we're speaking to kids right now, but as a mom, like, that certainly speaks to me as, like, the world is your gym.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm chasing after little kids all the time and, like, hoping that I get my workout in every day. But also, like, reminds me of some of the things like my coach said to me as a goalkeeper. And you're bringing those up of, your finger strength is really important, and that doesn't necessarily happen on the field every day, but those are things that you can work on when you're sitting at your desk, or when you're just playing with a tennis ball, and that hand-eye coordination can really be done anywhere. So I think that applies to all sport and a variety of different positions. So it's really inspiring to hear that from someone who is an Olympian. And for our kids who are watching, think about this as an opportunity to work on those micro skills and to build yourself up, so that when you do return to play, you're ready and you can step right onto the field or the court, and you're prepared to make a difference for your team. But also for your mental game, like, as you're mentioning, that's really what separates the good players from the great players, and can really make you a champion. And it's really what's more important in life. So I don't know if you can speak to the piece about, your sport career ending and what's really stuck with you. And I didn't prepare
Yeah.
you for this one, but there's a lot of value in sport, but there's things that remain with us. And for me, like, that's been the mental side of the game. And this is what kids can really work on during this pandemic. And can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, definitely. It's a loaded question with a lot of parts. So I'll kind of take it piece by piece. But like you were talking about, what skills you can do at home, visualization is another one I didn't touch on. I mean, you can practice every single play in your mind for the next couple weeks, and it will make a difference. You can review old tapes with parent permission, watch YouTube videos of your favorite athletes. You can learn a lot just from visualizing and watching it through other athletes. So make technology your friend. Don't just play video games all day, but you can learn a lot. Again, with permission to look at YouTube videos or podcasts. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and to kind of transition into your second question, Julie Foudy, who's one of my biggest role models, she runs a podcast called Laughter Permitted. And she recently had a guest, Colleen Hacker, who was our mental skills coach in the 2014 Olympics, and she worked with the women's soccer team for about 8 years. And listening to that podcast brought me so much joy because it's all about the connections from sports. It's what you learn in sport. It's that social belonging that I think is the hardest part about moving on from my athletic career and into the workforce, is trying to find a group of people you have that common goal and really want to spend your day and challenge yourself with. And that's hard to find. So I think no matter what you do, trying to find the right people to connect with and enjoy life with. And her biggest message through this one particular podcast is all about hunting joy. And Dr. Hacker, and she challenged Julie Foudy that every day, find something that makes you laugh, makes you smile, go out and hunt joy no matter what it is. And especially in a time like this, when everybody's feeling a little bit down, it's so important. And if you can't find it, be that person to create it for somebody else. And so I think, I go through a roller coaster of emotions over the last couple of weeks, but finding stuff to laugh about every day, or sending a funny meme to my brother back in Boston, it brings me joy. It makes me feel connected. We've done a bunch of Zoom calls with old teammates who I haven't talked to in years. And it's right now a really nice time to kind of pause and reconnect with people and tell stories and just enjoy that. So I guess the lessons, I've been out of sport, or at least actively competing for about 4 years now, is that social belonging of feeling part of something bigger than yourself, part of that team, and just understanding everyone has a role to play no matter what team you're on. And for me now, it's, at work, I'm on a completely different team than I was on, playing ice hockey, but we all have purpose, we all have a role, and you can challenge yourself to be better. And so I think at home right now, if I'm not physically active, I'm mentally just trying to learn new things and stay active. I bought a piano, a mini piano. That's been my new chore for the last couple of weeks, is trying to learn how to play the piano and read music. It challenges me in a way I haven't done before.
That's great. Yeah. So hunting joy, you're making me think about what moments of joy I've been hunting for. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of them that come to mind. I think for me, like, being outdoors just like naturally brings that about. And little kids' laughter is just so contagious. They talk about, how contagious this virus is, so COVID-19 itself. And it's just tragic, like what people are going through. But the fact that laughter and kindness are contagious as well. So to try to think about that and to really latch on to that. But what would you say to coaches? You've given kids a lot to think about and a lot to ponder in this time, both on the physical end, but also on the mental end. But for those that are really in a position of influence, and we know, especially at Doc Wayne, that a trusted, caring adult is really what's going to make a difference for kids. And the rates of child abuse reporting are down, even though we know it's still going on in homes. And with reentry to sport, reentry to school, the mental health pandemic, this secondary pandemic, is really just starting. And so the World Health Organization, they're anticipating this is going to go on for another 1 to 2 years. So these coaches are in just this incredible position to help. What would you say to them in terms of training and mental well-being, and really their amazing position to help young people?
Absolutely. I mean, everything, you just summed it up perfectly. And I do think there's such an important role right now for coaches and mentors to stay involved in these kids' life. It's one thing to say, soccer season's canceled, we'll see you next year. Um, but kids come to play soccer not just to kick a ball around, it's to have that social belonging we talked to, and it's about that important relationship with coaches. And so, my advice to coaches is stay involved. Try to get the team together, whether it's virtually, and create that sense of belonging and purpose for these kids. Like you said, a lot of kids need somebody to reach out and talk to. Be that person. Be that person to check in on your kids. You know, see how they're doing. If they want to talk about whatever sport you coach, great. If they don't, and they just want to talk about life or what's happening at school or with their family, kind of be that person to listen to them. They've always looked up to you as a role model and mentor as coach, and that position doesn't change right now. And like you said, if anything, it's more important. And we just got off a work call with the NHL, and they're talking about what return to play might look like, and trying to get it out of our heads that come fall it's going to be back to normal. So I think as a coach, how can you start now to adapt your coaching method or your practices, or just what the sport is? We were talking about ice rinks. Yeah, that might be harder to get back to instead of street hockey. So are there different forms of your sport that you can start introducing to kids to get them active and moving again? Kind of take that on yourself to be creative and be ahead of the curve, so you can continue to be that role model in the community. So I don't think anything will go back to normal, as we call it, but I think there's a lot of exciting things that will come about it, and a lot of opportunities to, especially locally within communities, connect even better. And so, yeah, in summary, just continue to be that pillar for those kids and continue to reach out and be that role model, and connect the kids where you can. I know technology, we're all doing more screen time, but there is something great about it, and it can connect you. Or, once rules settle down, can you get a couple kids out at a park socially distanced?
Yeah.
And just be creative. I think we're all going to have to be challenged in a different way right now to connect with one another. And like you said, the coach's role is more important now than ever.
Yeah, for sure. And there, I guess the silver lining of this is that we are in a position that we can still connect, and we are in a world that we have this technology to be able to reach out to kids and to really make a difference in their lives. Yeah, what would you say to athletes who have this wonderful platform that we know about, in terms of social impact and mental health? There's some that feel a deep connection because of personal loss or personal connection, and then there's others who don't. But mental health impacts everyone. And what would you say to your fellow athletes in terms of their ability to make a change in this world, given the pandemic that we're in? So we have this public health crisis, but we have this secondary pandemic of anxiety and mental health. What should athletes do to help here in the U.S., but also globally right now?
Yeah, I think for everyone to realize, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about it. Everybody has their story, whether it's a personal connection to mental health or suicide, or living with anxiety or depression, or just everybody's loss is equally important. So whether you're a superstar athlete or, a kid at school right now, everybody has their story. Everybody's struggling with something, and that is okay. And I think it's important for athletes to say that and to show that they're struggling with a lot of the same things everybody else is, and to use that platform. For whatever reason, people look up to athletes for a lot of good reasons, and a lot of reasons I'll never know why, but
Yeah.
they have a voice, and
Mm-hmm.
every voice matters. So I think the more athletes can get out and talk about their experiences, or talk about things that are important to them, and really just provide hope and encouragement to kids. We're all in their shoes at one point, dreaming about. For me, I was in fourth grade, dreaming about going to the Olympics, and having role models along the way, and to learn from them was super important. So no matter where you are in the country, the world, age, gender, everybody has a story. Everybody's going through something, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on your friends and family. It's more than okay. That's what's going to get us through all of this.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Molly. And Yeah, I deeply appreciate that, for myself, but also on behalf of the kids and families from Doc Wayne, but also those that aren't part of Doc Wayne, because often they don't have the voice that they wish they did. And it's tremendously impactful when people who have had athletic success speak about such things. And as you mentioned, sometimes we don't truly know why, but they have a bit of a superhero effect on kids, and it's just very helpful when we openly talk about mental health concerns, whether they're really deep seated or they're just like, I had a fleeting moment of anxiety. um, and I just want to share with you all so that we can all feel like this is a human thing. But I just want to appreciate everyone's time today, and just really thankful that people are prioritizing mental health and sport. But I also wanted to give you, Molly, I've been hitting with you with questions this whole time. So want to give you a chance to ask me a question, and then we'll wrap up our time today.
Definitely. So I think for me, looking at people who are working from home and having kids and the importance of mental health and taking time for yourself, how do you balance all that? A lot of people on the call might be pulled in a million different directions every day. Where do you find that time for yourself to make sure you're taking care of yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. And I know there's a variety of people listening in today. So I have a different answer for kids than perhaps for adults, parents and coaches. For kids, I guess my message is that your parents and your caregivers and your guardians love you. So they love you deeply, and they might seem like they're pulled in many different directions, but you're their biggest priority. And so it's most important that they hear that message. And this is a really difficult time right now, but they're loved. In terms of the balancing act, I think I've just started to acknowledge and understand that it's not all possible.
Yeah.
So you can't do work perfectly. Well, you can never do work perfectly, but you can't do work perfectly and be the best parent you can be, and keep your house clean the way you'd like to have it cleaned, and help your kids with homework all at the same time. You can't keep all of those balls in the air. So just practicing some self-compassion and speaking to yourself kindly, and understanding that it's simply not possible. And just to use the sports lens, is that we train to peak at the right moment. So perhaps for yourself, you train to peak for the gold medal game, or for the tournament for the Olympics, but you didn't think that you would peak for the whole year. It's just not feasible. So you understand that there will be dips and there will be times that you're not at your best, but you know that when that time comes, you have to step up. So with little kids at home and with work projects, when the time calls for you to step up for work, or when your child really needs you, or when you do actually have to clean your house. But you kind of have to manage that and know when it's okay to take some time for yourself, but also know when you can push things off to another time. So that project's not necessary right now. I can do that after the pandemic, or I can delegate that to another time, to another person. So kind of managing your workflow, and workflow not just for work, but for your home life and for your kids and all of that, but also utilizing your coping skills. So I myself have coping skills. I rely upon other people to support me. So I know that's a lot of information, but that's how I kind of try to manage the situation as it is, while also understanding that I can't keep all these balls in the air in this perfect rainbow effect that is going to look beautiful and be like this Olympic moment
Yeah.
where everything goes perfectly. It's just not going to happen.
That's great advice because it's something, to be honest, I've struggled with my whole life. Is always that expectations and high standards and wanting to achieve at the Olympic level, and that self compassion to say today is not the day, and that's okay.
Yeah, me
And
too. I think that's so
great advice.
common for performers, and I'm using that term loosely in terms of folks who perform in the athletic context, but also artists and people who um, are on stage all the time, is like understanding that you do need those moments where you just can't live up to those expectations. So you need to care for yourself and have that downtime. And as a athlete myself, I think I wasn't the best at that. Is like I needed to learn, and that was one of the life outcomes that I learned, life skills I learned, is that you have to go through this process where you are training, but you're not performing at your best. And you're just building skills and you're building muscle. And then all of a sudden you peak. And then you come down again. And then you peak again so that you can actually win championships. And it applies to work as well. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I wonder if that's a goalie thing, right? We're so used to seeing the scoreboard behind us counting mistakes that you want it to be zero. That I think that's instilled in us.
I
We have
know.
a lot in common there. So it's really great advice for sure to be able to take that step back and understand the process along the way.
Yeah, well, I feel like we could talk for hours. So maybe we'll have to do this again, but out of respect for other people's time, I think we'll wrap up for the day. And in summary, this session with Molly is part of a larger series called Kids and COVID-19. So if you missed those previous sessions or are interested in future sessions, you can visit us on YouTube, so Doc Wayne's YouTube channel. And you can also reach out at support@docwayne.org. And anytime you can visit us at docwayne.org. So we welcome your comments, your suggestions for content that would be helpful to you. And also, if you need support around mental health, specifically telehealth services right now, please never hesitate to email us at support@docwayne. And just want to express my gratitude to Molly Schaus here today, and appreciation for her time, and hope to have her back as a guest again, given how nice of a conversation we had. And on that note, we wish you the best. We hope you stay healthy and stay happy, and have a great day, folks. Goodbye from Doc Wayne.